Okay, very good. Speaking of funding, you do an awful lot, and we're going to talk about some of the specifics, but how are you funded? How is East Market Street Development Corporation funded?
We are funded primarily through grants, whether it's private foundations. We do have a couple grants through public entities, through the City of Greensboro and Guilford County, a couple small grants that we have there. And then for some of the work that we're doing in some of our neighborhoods that are tied back to those bond dollars, we've got access to those dollars for some of those activities in particular.
Okay. A couple of things. Did you start out, or did East Market Street Development Corporation start out with a master plan that you're working on to carry it through to completion, or do things just sort of evolve as you progress? And then the second thing is, what is the accountability? Most grants makers want some kind of accountability and outcome-based results. Sure. So how are you judged?
Well, the first part of your question, again, going back to the origins of the organization, there was an East Market Street redevelopment plan that was put in place that had some pretty specific targets and some different levels of accountability that were there to work toward. And then over the years, what has happened is, as an organization, we create a strategic plan for each year and revise it based on, again, those objectives that are out there, and certainly to stay true to our mission. As far as the accountability piece, we certainly have to provide reports with the county and the city, because those are public dollars, obviously, to make them aware exactly what we're doing, what our accomplishments have been, where we're headed, all those different things. And that's an open dialogue. With the city in particular, we've got a very strong relationship with them. And they're integrally woven into our organization. They serve on various committees and assisting us with different things, and so that's a collaborative arrangement in particular. They attend our board meetings, so they're well aware of what's going on and understanding what it is we're trying to achieve. And certainly, again, that's a collaborative piece, because, again, going back to those bond dollars, there's an accountability to the city at large and to city staff with regard to what we look to do with those dollars in particular.
Just a minute ago, we had a map on the screen there. That you started out with that pretty narrow corridor, East Market Street, but you expanded. You've got a much broader area now. Yeah,
again, initially it was about maybe a 2-mile stretch of East Market Street, and again, dealing with the commercial center there. And then over time, certainly it came about based on need, where when you're looking at revitalizing a commercial area, and it didn't make sense to just focus on that when you've got neighborhoods that are at risk just outside of that. So from the commercial or business district, it spilled over into working with some of those surrounding neighborhoods like Eastside Park, Jonesboro Scott Park, Heath, Tolbert. Those are some of the early neighborhoods where we were doing some outreach work as well, and so that's kind of evolved over the years. We've stayed committed to them, but certainly there have been some other neighborhoods that have come online, like Willow Oaks, for example. We certainly have expanded into Northeast Greensboro and had a relationship with Northeast Concerned Citizens probably since our inception, which has allowed us to do some work in those areas as well. And so that's kind of how it's evolved over the years with that. And then certainly the entrepreneurship piece came about by really understanding that there was a need out there. And so that's kind of how we fine-tuned that over the years and expanded, as opposed to just choosing certain areas where we want to go do work there. It didn't happen that way. Right. It was an organic and kind of based on needs. So that's how we've gone over the years. And
speaking of neighborhoods, do you offer assistance in housing as well to help people with housing needs? We have done a number of different things. One of the things under our community development umbrella is what we call the Healthy Neighborhood Initiative, which is really a strategy about how to build stronger communities. And when you look at it, if you think about successful neighborhoods throughout the city, throughout the country, there's some common features that you're going to find. One is you're going to see a high percentage of home ownership. Along with that, you're going to see lower crime rates. You're going to see active neighborhood groups, whether it's a homeowners association or neighborhood watch or some kind of neighborhood organization. Citizens are well informed.
And that comes down to understanding what your rights are as a property owner, understanding your rights as a tax-paying citizen, and the accountability that the city and all its departments have to you, and that interaction taking place. And so the things I mentioned have nothing to do with income level. So whether it's a neighborhood of $300,000 homes or it's a neighborhood of $80,000 homes, the things that make for strong neighborhoods are constant. And so one of the challenges for us, because we're working in a number of areas where they're low to moderate income, some of those factors are not in place. So some of the challenges there working some of those neighborhoods is that you've got much lower percentages of home ownership, so you have a lot of rental properties, and with that a lot of times you've got landlords or property owners who are out of state, who are not paying as much attention to those properties. So you have a number of things that go on. I mean, a lot of times that invites more criminal activity. So there's a number of different pieces to that that fight against that neighborhood kind of building itself up and being solid and stabilized. So we look to address a number of those issues from working with the city around infrastructure needs, whether it's proper lighting or sidewalks. There's a number of different things, a number of different challenges in a number of those neighborhoods. And then certainly looking to address the home ownership piece as well. In the past, we've done a number of workshops on home ownership. We've done workshops around home improvements, how to maintain your properties and that kind of thing. And then we also got into a program we started probably about 6 years ago, where we look to do some home repair and weatherization type projects for low-income homeowners in some of the communities that we serve. And so those are types of things that help to stabilize neighborhoods, because again, if you've got an ownership stake, you're going to want to make sure that you get a return on your investment. Sure. So the more folks you have in communities that own homes and have that vested interest, and then they're going to want to take care of those properties, and then it just kind of steamrolls from there. And certainly getting those folks engaged with one another to take control of those communities. And then you end up in a situation where you're able to have good relationships with the police department and let them know what's going on. And so it's a positive thing as opposed to a negative thing. And again, regaining control of those communities and certainly taking that, stabilizing, and then that's how you get the economic input. And then that'll spur more private investment.
Let me ask you about the we that you keep talking about, because I know you have a pretty small staff. Mac Sims is the president. Mac used to be on our board here at Cable 8, and you, and I believe you have one other on your staff, and that's it. That's a pretty small staff. You have a board of directors, which is a relatively small board. Who's doing all this?
Well, you're correct in that we have a small paid staff. Yeah. We also have a couple of part-time individuals, but a lot of the legwork behind the scenes for us, we work with a number of college interns throughout the year, okay. Fall and spring, to get assistance. Also, we use a number of volunteers. For example, around the home repair program, we use volunteers to do the labor, working with general contractors for that piece. We partner with other organizations. We realize that we're not going to be the be-all and end-all for change in East Greensboro, and so we certainly look to partner with other organizations and develop relationships with other organizations who are providing services in that part of the city as well. So again, a lot of times it's just trying to figure out the best way to do something, and certainly, when you have other collaborative partners involved, everybody doesn't have to take the lion's share of the weight. That kind of gets spread out, but again, it's about objectives that are out there and common interests. And so we work creatively.
Sounds like you do, yeah.
There's nothing that's taken for granted, that's for sure. So, limited staff, limited resources, but again, it forces us to be creative in partnering and making sure that we're being proactive and efficient in our activities.
And how about your future? I mean, do you see this as something that can keep going, or do you see a limited focus to East Market Street development? Well,
I think it's need-based. I don't think at the outset it was intended for this organization to be around 40 or 50 years, but certainly as we've evolved over the years, it certainly need-based, and so we've looked to certainly find where we can add value in the East Market Street corridor and in East Greensboro as a larger area, and certainly we've kind of figured out some places where we've got expertise, certainly around the entrepreneurship piece, and that training, again, which goes beyond just that area, has been one of those angles for us. I think we're doing a little bit more on the housing piece, so that's going to evolve, and certainly we've had expertise when it comes to redevelopment projects. I mentioned the shopping center earlier, the Dudley Shopping Center, and case in point, right now we're engaged in the redevelopment of the Bessemer Shopping Center on Phillips Avenue. So there's some pieces where our user experience will lend to other types of development that take place, and so you know, we'd love for it to come to an end, because that means there are no more issues to address and no more problems to deal with in East Greensboro, but that's not the case right now.
So, not going to happen.
Yeah, I mean, it's we again want that to be the ultimate, but certainly right now that's not the case. Other
than the Phillips Avenue project, do you have other big plans? Anything you can tell us about that's coming up?
You know, there's when those types of projects come along, I mean, a lot of times we don't necessarily see them coming, but certainly going forward, as you're aware, there was a market study done in the city of Greensboro, and that was released late spring. And so there were a number of opportunities that were highlighted in that market study that we're looking to certainly push, because they involve some development areas in East Greensboro. And certainly we're going to be working collaboratively to really get some momentum around that. So that's going to be a big piece for us moving forward. One of those areas is a 13-acre site that's right off of East Market Street, that's ripe for development, and certainly we'll want to be able to make sure that happens and comes to fruition, because it's going to be eventually that's going to become a destination point. Yeah. And so there's going to be some momentum around that. Also, we've had some other initiatives. In the past, we've worked with the city on neighborhood redevelopment plan in Jonesboro Scott Park, and so we've been implementing various pieces of that over the last 3 years. And certainly this past fall, we had a big piece that was successful for us, where we were able to acquire and redevelop a 17-unit apartment complex. And so there's probably going to be a little more along the lines of housing initiatives, and we're working with another neighborhood on a redevelopment plan in early stages as well. So there's a number of pieces around housing that will certainly be on the forefront.
Lots going on. Well, you know, people that have just recently come to Greensboro and go down East Market Street may not appreciate it, but those of us that remember what it looked like in the 60s, 70s can see the tremendous development that's taking place, and you all are doing a super job, and certainly want to commend you for that. And unfortunately, we're out of time. This is very, very interesting. I want to thank you, Phil, for being with us and sharing the work of the East Market Street Development Corporation. Phil Barnhill, who is the Director of Operations for East Market Street Development Corporation. Thanks so much.
Glad to be here. Thank you.
And we always, as always, we thank you for watching our program.
You're watching Cable 8, Greensboro Community Television.